Here we are now at the yellow spoke, and the stitches that we're going to use for this one are, I'm just going to say they're going to be easy. Now, not that the stitches that we've done on the other spokes have been necessarily mind-blowingly difficult, but you know, they've had a little bit of intricacy to them. So these are going to be, you know, they're not going to be that complex. Hopefully there's a new to you, perhaps, stitch or two, or maybe all for you in here. But you know what? I kind of want this one to just prove that every stitch doesn't have to be the most technically difficult stitch to have a really nice result, that it can be a really nice intricate result with using fairly simple stitches. So the first area, or the first lines that we're going to stitch, and for no reason this time, like previously I had a reason, I'm still going to stitch the outline of the shield shape first, as well as these lines inside here. And you know, there's no reason to do those first on this one. I'm not going to do any whipped back stitch, so I don't have to keep the needle out of any other stitches. I just want to go ahead and get the basic outline and the structure of these lines in, and then I'll do the details inside each little window. So I'm going to stitch the outline with a split back stitch, as well as each of these curved lines that come in from the side. So all of those are going to be split back stitch, and they're all going to be, I think I'm going to end up doing 2 strands for all of that. So that'll be nice and simple, 2 strands on your needle, and just do all of those lines. Well, that was pretty quick. And I think filling in all of these is going to be really quick too, actually, because we're going to continue with 2 strands, and we're going to do everything inside of here with 2 strands. So no need to keep switching back different needles with different strands. And what we are going to do, let's start with this fun stitch right here. This is going to be what's called a long-tailed daisy. Now, we've already done some daisy stitches. I think you can see some right over here. So we've done them over here, and we did a couple on the pink spoke. And this is a really fun variation on the daisy stitch. So I will say, first of all, on the pattern, I drew this little teardrop shape. I should have really put the pointed side here and the rounded side here. So I didn't, I flipped those around. So just keep that in mind, because you do need to start, you need to start on this outside edge. You don't want to start right here, like if I was just doing a plain old daisy stitch, like if I was going to stitch the stem and put a daisy stitch on the end, I would start right here. This one's different. I have to start on the top edge, the outside point. So I'm going to come up, and then just like a daisy stitch, I will go down right where the needle came up. And again, just like a daisy stitch, I'm going to keep a loop open. And I'm going to come up right at that point, and I'm going to pull. And there is my little loop. But now, in a regular daisy stitch, I would take the needle down right here to anchor that teardrop, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stretch this thread all the way down here and put the needle in the fabric. Now, how easy was that? I mean, it makes this cool little, I don't know, tulip shape, whatever. It's just so simple and quick, but really, I just think it's a cool stitch. While we are here, I'm going to go ahead and fill in this whole little area. So these basic, simple straight stitches. All right, completely done with that one. Let's hop over to this side. This is a slightly smaller, oh, well, I'm going to come back and do the French knots, but slightly smaller little teardrop up here. Start on the outside point, go back down where the thread came out, hold open a loop, come up at that bottom point, pull the loop gently so it maintains a little bit of shape, and then put the needle down way over here. And then do your 2 straight stitches. Okay, that is all there is to it for all of these little sections. I'm going to wager that it's going to take maybe 10 minutes tops to fill all these in. So I'm going to go do that. This whole area is completely stitched and I timed myself. I went ahead and I did the French knots in each of these little spots, and while I was there I hopped up here and I did this French knot, which is 2 strands, same as this, but this one is wrapped twice. These are all wrapped once. And I just did these 2 little lines that are whipped back stitch, which we've done before, so no big deal. And I timed myself, and I think this whole thing, really honestly, I think it took me maybe 15 minutes, 20 if I'm being generous. So that's a lot of cool space to cover with some interesting visual stitches, but not a lot of time, right? What we're going to do for this circle is called the pinwheel stitch. And if you've ever done a blanket or like a buttonhole stitch, it's very similar to that. It's kind of related. If you haven't though, let me show you how to do it. And I will preface this by saying every single time I ever do a pinwheel stitch, I have to go do research to remind myself where to come up, because I always want to come up in the center. You don't want to do that. We're going to come up on the outside edge. Let me say one other thing quickly. When we come down in the center, we're not going to go down right on this center point. We're going to come out in a circle just around that point. So if you want to remind yourself to go down directly in the center, then just take a disappearing marker, that was the Frixion heat erasable one, and just draw yourself a little mini circle right around that dot in the center. So now, you know, previously on the other one we marked spots around the circle. We're not even going to bother to do that now. I'm just going to come up. Let's just say I'm going to come up right up here at 12. I'm going to go down at that point. I mean, on that circle, again, not right in the dead center. And kind of like the daisy stitch, I'm going to hold open a loop, and I'm going to bring the needle up right close inside that loop, right next to where this thread came out. Now, how far away you bring the needle up to this stitch, I mean, I could come up all the way, you know, right here, and that's going to give me a lot fewer pinwheels. If I came up like right on it, like super, super close, that's going to give me a whole bunch of spokes on my pinwheel. So I'm going to just sort of do it about 1/8 of an inch. Pull that thread up, and you want that sort of L shape or kind of a 7 shape. Now do the exact same thing. Come down here. Right now I'll have to get a little closer because this is a smaller circle, right? So I'm going to go down right next to that one. Hold open my loop and come up about 1/8 of an inch away. And there's my second one. Go down. Come up 1/8 of an inch away, pull it. Go down. And I think you can see here, if I pull the thread this way, see how that doesn't form its shape? I need to pull it that way. I need to pull it towards the outside of the circle, away from the center. And you can see now maybe why I chose not to go all the way down in the center. Partly for visual, I want to put a French knot there to have like a little dot in the center. And I just wanted some more interest. By the time I get all the way around, I'm going to have a lot of stitches going down. If I had done it in the center, I'd have a lot of stitches all going down in the center. You can do that. It just makes a bigger hole. You just have to kind of like really keep pushing that needle down there. It's a cool effect, but I wanted this little ring of like a little outline around the center, and I wanted to be able to put a French knot in the center. I think you can also start to see why it's called the pinwheel stitch. got like this little pinwheel look. I don't know how else to describe it. Whoops, 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 that was wrong. I almost did that. See, I came up. I gotta go down on the front. See, I was trying to think of what it looked like and I wasn't thinking. All right, see, that is all there is to it. I've made it all the way around now, and I just pulled this last stitch. So to end it, all you do is just go down right on the other side of that without getting a knot to anchor that one right there. See, how simple was that? And look, you don't even have to stitch an outline around it because it already has its own outline. So this is such a really fun, simple but unique stitch. There's so many things you can do with this stitch other than leave it like this. If you're doing flowers, you can make a center, and then you can stitch into this. You could do things like a picot edge into these loops on this on the edge. You can put stitches inside here. So many things you can do with this really simple stitch. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and put the French knot in the center. I've got 3 strands, and I'm going to do 2 wraps. And while I'm here, I'm also going to jump up here. And I think I'm going to do 3 wraps on this one. 2, 3. So it'll have a little bit more weight to it. For the outside edge of this spoke, we are going to do a stitch that's called a cable chain stitch. We seem to have kind of a chain stitch theme going here, but this one is called a cable chain because it looks like an actual chain, almost even more than just like the traditional chain stitch. And it is simple. You're going to look at it at first, you're going to look at my explanation, and at first you're probably going to be like, wait, I'm a little confused. But I promise, once you do it, you will see, and once you kind of get into the rhythm of it, you'll see how simple it is. To do this stitch, I'm using 3 strands, so we kind of keep with the same weight as the other ones. So come up. I want my thread to be, let me get a hold of it, up here. So I'm going to put the needle in front of it, and I'm going to wrap it from the back to the front. That is important. On French knots, I have said before, it doesn't matter if you wrap them this way or if you wrap them this way. On this one, it matters. So start with the needle in front of the thread, wrap it 1 time, hold that thread a little bit out of the way. Let me see if I can get my hand out of the way, and go down right where you came out. And now, remember how I talked about the sewing method versus the stab method? Well, we are going to do just a little tiny stitch. That is the sewing method. As usual, let me zoom in here, move everything around. Okay, I'm going to take that out and start completely over so you can really see what I'm doing. Thread is up, needle is in front, wrap it from behind it, around in front 1 time, kind of like a French knot. Don't make it too tight. But hold it up. If you let go of it and you put the needle down, it's going to slide off. So wrap it around from behind, pull it back a little bit that way, put the needle down right next to where it came out. And now if you need to, push up on the back a little bit, and I'm going to make a little stitch like that. So that's the sewing part of it. But before I push this through, see this thread right here? I am going to, and I may need to push on the back a little bit. Okay, wrap it around the needle like that and push the needle on through. So that first little knot got a little loose because I was struggling there. So let me go, I'm going to go take that out and start over. All right, I'm going to give this another go. Maybe I was talking too much, thinking about something else. So wrap the needle, Put the tip of the needle into the fabric. You can even go ahead and slide that knot down a little bit, which that's probably what was my mistake last time. Make a little stitch. Honestly, this is probably the hardest part right here, is to get this width while at the same time it's right in the center of the hoop. Okay, push that up, push it from behind, wrap that thread around there. And pull it through. Now do the same thing over and over and over. Thread is behind, needle in front, wrap from behind, put it down just a little ways away from the last stitch. Push up, bring that thread under the needle, pull it through. Get those strands to kind of, okay. Thread behind, needle in front, wrap it once, put the tip of the needle down, slide that little bitty wrap down, take a stitch, wrap that thread around, pull the thread through. So can you see now why it's called the cable chain? Because you have like a little chain with a little connector. So you'll notice how close you put the needle down after you wrap it is how long this is going to be. So you can adjust that. I want these to be really close together, and I don't want to have super, super long chains, you know, loops. So let's say when I do this part, if I put the needle down way in front, like right there, can you see how far away that one is? I'm going to have a long line in between each loop. And that might be fine. That may be what you want. But that's not what I want here. I want them to be a little more densely packed. So I'm going to make sure I put that needle down really close. Slide that wrap down. Take a sewing stitch, wrap the thread around, pull it through. So once you get going on this, it moves along really quickly actually. Like I said, that's the hardest part right there, is just getting that thread to wrap around the needle, underneath the needle if your fabric's really tight. Okay, my strands are wanting to be a little bit loose, so I'm going to do like I do on a regular chain stitch. Try to find the one strand that's a little loose. Okay. There, just needed a little bit of nudging. All right, so just do that all the way around. You don't even have to, you know, in the other ones, how we would, you know, do one side and stop and then go back and start again at the top and go down. You don't even have to do that here. You can go all the way. You can go all the way around here, and then you can change directions and you go all the way down here. You might have seen me do it a minute ago, but I was kind of struggling before with getting this thread wrapped around that needle on this very, very tight fabric. I think I have discovered a way that it works pretty well, at least right here on the hoop. So I've slid that knot down, and I'm holding onto it with this thumb, and I'm pushing on the back with this finger, so that's bringing the fabric up a little bit. But see how this thumb is right here? I'm gonna push on the back so the tip of my needle is up, and I'm really just gonna roll that thread around it. I can pull it a little tighter, and that seems to be working. You might find a different way. That's not like you have to do it that way. I'm just finding that that way I can keep my hand on the needle like this and just roll that thread around and then give it a little tug. And that seems to be working pretty well. You know, I told you when you got up here to the point, you could just work your way around, and I actually think it's going to be better. I did this stitch, and honestly, it got a little wonky, a little loose or something. The knot is the link part is not quite as tight as the rest, but whatever. I went down so that now I can start, and I tried to go down in a place that I'm not going to need to come right up, so I kind of hid it underneath that stitch. Hopefully when I come up it will not pull that loose. It might have just a little bit, so I'm going to go down again. See how it kind of pulled that to the back? Let me try to come up in a slightly different place. Okay, that's better. So now it's just like it was down here where I started, and I can just get going again and go this direction, wrap it, put it in, go.